Hello once again, welcome to the Security Update, which we often look at issues concerning security in the continent from west to east. And these are the stories making the headlines. Somaliland President held talks with international partners over Las Anod conflict. Ethiopia declares successful dismantling of special forces as part of ongoing security reforms. Somalia Foreign Affairs Minister distresses about the armed conflict in Sudan. Attack on army and volunteers in North Burkina Faso killed at least Welcome to the program. The President of Somaliland, Musa Bihi, has held a video conference with some of the Western diplomats that include USA, UK, EU ambassadors and deputy ambassadors. According to the Somaliland presidency, the center of their discussion was the ongoing conflict in Las Anod and the upcoming elections for this year. The President of Somaliland, Musa Bihi, has held a video conference with some of the Western diplomats that include USA, UK, EU ambassadors and deputy ambassadors. According to the Somaliland presidency, the center of their discussion was the ongoing conflict in Las Anod and the upcoming election is for this year. In his remarks about the conflict, President Bihi recounted the various measures taken by his administration to lower tension and to restore peace and stability in the city, while citing that the government sent a delegation of ministers to Las Anod to open dialogue with the traditional leaders, but the traditional leaders refused to engage with them to reach a peaceful settlement. The statement reads, Bihi noted that the government withdrew its forces from the town to minimize civilian casualties and avoid further collateral damage to the city, and also welcomed Ethiopia's offer to mediate between the Somaliland government and the traditional leaders in Las Anod, which was later allegedly rejected by the Grats. However, the diplomats extended gratitude to President Bihi for meeting with them and proposed that Somaliland pull its forces out of Las Anod. President Bihi attached to the proposal that Somalia's Puntland administration withdraw its forces from Las Anod. He added that the driving force behind Puntland's hostilities against Somaliland is to create a tribal border, which will have devastating effects on the security and stability of the Horn of Africa wider region. Ethiopia's army chief announced on Saturday that the country has finalized dismantling special forces that were established by certain regions, culminating a policy that led to recent waves of unrest. The move was aimed at implementing ongoing security reforms in the country.
On April 6, the Ethiopian government announced its decision to integrate the disbanded special forces into either the federal army or regional police. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed defended the move, stating that it was intended to reinforce the unity of Ethiopia, a country with a diverse ethnic makeup. The special forces were originally established by several regional governments in Ethiopia to maintain law and order within their territories. However, critics accuse these forces of being used to suppress political oppositions and dissent. There were also concerns that the forces such as Oromia Liberation Front, OLA, and Amhara Special Forces, ASF, were contributing to the fragmentation of Ethiopia along ethnic lines. Supporters of the policy argued that it was a necessary step toward creating a more unified Ethiopia and ensuring that security forces operate under a unified command structure. Critics, on the other hand, claimed that it was ploy to consolidate power at the federal level and reduce the autonomy of regional government. However, the policy has sparked unrest in some regions of Ethiopia, like the historic city of Gondar, Dese and Debre Barham cities, particularly those where the special forces were established. Some regional governments were equally skeptical about the integration of their forces into the federal army or police, arguing that it will undermine their authority and lead to further marginalization of their ethnic group.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Somalia has issued a press release showing how concerned the government is about the armed conflict between the army and the air force in Sudan.
In a statement issued by the Somali government on the renewed violence in Sudan, Somalia called on all the parties involved in the conflict to immediately stop the conflict and engage in dialogue to resolve the issue in order to maintain security and political stability. Fighting erupted Saturday morning in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, between two factions of Sudan's armed forces, with reports of gunfire and explosions across the city. After weeks of mounting tensions, the preliminary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) say they have taken control of the presidential palace, the state TV station, and the residence of the army chief and Khartoum International Airport, plunging the country into further turmoil, but the other side declined that claim. Meanwhile, the fighting continued. There were power outages in many parts of the city as a number of the electricity pylons were damaged in the fighting. Most people had been trapped inside since the violence began early in the day, with no clear idea about when it would be safe enough to emerge from hiding and no clear idea about who is in control of Sudan and how it ends.
Somalia police has raised allegations against politicians for neglecting to enforce the weapons ban issued by Somalia President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, casting doubt on the government's capacity to implement security measures amid ongoing instability. Somalia police has raised allegations against politicians for neglecting to enforce the weapons ban issued by Somalia President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, casting doubt on the government's capacity to implement security measures amid ongoing instability. According to Moomin, officers have initiated an operation to prevent the open carrying of weapons in the city. The Panadil police chief said government officials have not yet complied with the directives. They are still carrying machine guns and PKMs. Anyone found with a heavy weapon or PKM will be torpedoed and arrested, he added. He also warned that anyone violating the army's control order will face prosecution. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud announced the new directive last week during a Friday prayer sermon, explicitly prohibiting individuals or other than government security forces on active duty from carrying heavy weapons in public on Mogadishu's streets. The government noted that the measure is part of a broader initiative to reduce violence and foster stability in the city. Medics in Sudan say at least 22 people have been killed in the recent tribal conflict in the West Darfur state. Experts, however, blame an increase in violence in recent months in Sudan on power vacuum and political tensions. But we will be back after the short break.
Making documentaries is one of the most creative, craft and challenging endeavors you can be involved in. It is an effective strategy to inform, persuade, educate, defend the perspective and shed light on various issues, policies and activities. At CBA TV, documentary production is our forte. We capture every TikTok detail of events in highest resolution to tell the story you care about, from politics to human hunger, research-based content, educative and informative. We also help you project your story in a dynamic perspective that attracts the world views of the target audience, as there is no better or more powerful way to place the organization's values and achievements than to make an excellent documentary film. No doubt, our strength lies in these ventures, and we pride in many award-winning documentaries which have been earning accolades across Africa and beyond. Let's tell your story.
Welcome back again. Medics in Sudan say at least 22 people have been killed in the recent tribal conflict in the West Darfur state. Experts, however, blame an increase in violence in recent months in Sudan on power vacuum and political tensions.
According to Sudanese medical officials, no fewer than 22 people were shot and killed in a renewed violence in West Darfur over the past week. Fighting in Fort Baranga is the latest in a string of tribal clashes in Sudan's outskirts, particularly in West Darfur. Multiple cases of violence have occurred since a 2020 peace deal and an October 2021 coup in Sudan. The Central Committee of Sudanese Doctors added that the local hospital was closed over lack of security protection, therefore leaving many people without medical attention. On Monday, the governor of West Darfur declared a 2-week state of emergency and imposed a nighttime curfew across the state. Analysts blamed an increase in violence in recent months between various tribal groups across Sudan's far-flung regions as a result of power vacuum and political tensions. According to the United Nations, approximately 20,000 people were displaced as a result of violence between Masalit and Arab tribes. The violence has also forced some others across the border into Chad. Kamel Sadiq, CBA TV.
Somalia National Army killed at least 9 Al-Shabaab fighters and injured others during an operation at an area near Chanale town in Lower Shabelle region, even though the army did not disclose their casualties.
And still in Somalia, Somalian National Army killed at least 9 Al-Shabaab fighters and injured others during an operation at an area near Janali town in Lower Shabelle region, even though the army did not disclose their casualties. The forces claim to have thwarted Al-Shabaab's attempt to conduct an ambush attack on ATMIs conveyed along the way linking Bofo location to Janali town in the same region. The army officials added that the forces are committed to take action against the group attempting to carry out such attacks on either the army or civilians. They even evacuated their bodies at the scene. The operation comes a week after SNA and local forces, aka Ma Wesley officials, began the second phase of the total war on Al-Shabaab in regions under Hirshabelle and Gamudug states in the country.
Unidentified assailants killed 6 soldiers and 34 members of the Volunteer Defense Force in an attack by unknown armed men in Burkina Faso. Officials confirmed that the attack occurred in the northern part of the country where groups affiliated to terror groups operate frequently.
Authorities in Burkina Faso confirmed in a statement on Sunday that unidentified men killed 40 people while injuring 44 others in an attack on the army and volunteer defense forces in the northern part of the country. The attack occurred on Saturday in the village of Arima in the north region, not far from the border with Mali. According to the statement, the attack on Saturday claimed the lives of 6 soldiers and 34 members of a volunteer defense force. The area where the attack occurred is controlled by extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, which have carried out attacks there on a regular basis for years. No group has taken responsibility for the fresh violent campaign. The attack comes 9 days after the gunmen in the north of Burkina Faso killed 44 people in the villages of Kuraku and Tondobi. Burkina Faso's unrest prompted 2 coups by the military in 2022. The Burkinabe military heads vowed to retake control of the country but have not been able to put a stop to frequent attacks. The unrest has displaced hundreds of thousands of people and has since spread into neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger. Kamel Sadiq, CBA TV.
Dozens of school girls who were kidnapped in northern Nigeria in 2014 still remain in captivity, according to the UNICEF. The UN Children Agency then called for protection of young people, especially those in conflict-prone region in Nigeria.
The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has called for an immediate action to protect young people affected by conflict in the northeastern part of Nigeria. 9 years after their kidnapping, 96 out of 276 girls who were kidnapped from the government girls' secondary school in Chibok, Borno State, northern Nigeria, are still being held captive, according to a statement from UNICEF. Chibok schoolgirls were abducted from their school on April 14, 2014. The incident sparked local and international outreach, with political leaders, activists, and advocates putting pressure on the Nigerian government under President Goodluck Jonathan to rescue the girls while offering intelligence and support. Speaking on the impact of the conflict on children, Christian Monduet, UNICEF representative in Nigeria, said thousands of children continue to experience killings and kidnapping, including forced recruitment into armed groups. She applauded the Nigerian government for signing the handover protocol supported by UNICEF and contributing $314.5 million to the financing plan for safe schools in 2022. The UNICEF official promised that the group would continue to work with the government to support the immediate reunion and participation in reintegration programs of any children encountered during armed conflict or released from armed groups. Kamil Sadiq, reporting for CBA TV, Nigeria.
And with that story of the dozens of schoolgirls who were kidnapped in northern Nigeria in 2014 still remain in captivity, according to UNICEF, will wrap up our program for this time. Thank you very much for being with us. This is me, Hamse Daabjeerin.